the biggest game of the weekend, the North London derby, Tottenham hosting Arsenal in a tight game that probably the one goal was always going to decide it. Rob, give me your overview of the game, your big picture, and then we can get into a bit of detail.
Yeah, I mean, the first headline is what a good win. What a good win. I mean, I enjoyed the game, by the way, Rob, and we'll get into that. I really enjoyed the game. But strong from Arsenal. Without Rice and Odegaard, I thought Odegaard, and I've said this before, Rob, is the most important player for Arsenal, in my opinion, because he can play that ball. He keeps the ball great. He plays those penetrating passes in behind lines. He's such a great player. And it was kind of okay the way that the game flowed. Yeah. Spurs, the way they set up, and Arteta talked about it afterwards, Rob, in the interview, they are so geared to dominate possession that really, unless you are extraordinary on the ball, and I guess Man City tick that, but even then, Spurs are going to possess it because there's so many options ahead of the ball. It's hard for the opponents to stop them dominating possession. So that's the way the game was, and I like the way that Arteta's absolutely fine with that, Rob. Yeah. And they, as you said, I think on the show, Arsenal, they defend in a 4-4-2 without the ball. Yeah. They got forced very deep at times because of Spurs' football. But really, I mean, Spurs had a few chances, Rob, throughout the game. But my goodness, the stars of the show were the centre-backs, I thought, for Arsenal. The midfield players are protected really well. And, you know, the scenes at the end with the victory. Yeah. I mean, as Postecoglou said, Rob, and we'll get into him a little bit, there wasn't much in it. There wasn't much in the game. My main notes in the first half were kind of Arsenal still, even though they had a lot less possession, it was classic Rob, possession versus counter-attack. And we've seen it a million times, and we know how both of them, by the way, can do really well. And I just thought first half as well, Arsenal still looked the most likely to score when they had their opportunities going forward than the other way around. So well done, Arsenal. Strong, really important statement victory.
In some respects, I totally agree. And as you say, on the broadcast, I talked about it. It was a very different kind of win, but an important win. Because of, if you don't have Rice and you don't have Odegaard, Rob, in that situation, will the football naturally be different? Because you talk about what Odegaard does. Rice's ability to play as an 8, where he can be a defensive part, he can drive forward with and without the ball and make things happen. Attack. But when we see Arsenal at our best, when we see Arsenal dominating football, there's a groove, there's a rhythm, there's a possession and control. Yeah. By playing Jorginho and Trossard, doesn't in some way the football have to change? Because A, you've not got that personnel, and B, you can't necessarily do what you can do with those two players because they're high-tariff, high-class internationals.
No, I'll go back to my first answer, Rob. In this game, if that was a game against anybody else or almost anybody else, the game is different. Arsenal still possess, they still control, they still
So my point is if Rice and Odegaard played, it would have been a different game because they would have wanted more ball, or do you think Mikel would have said, actually, I'm going to thicken things up, which he did a couple of seasons ago when they won 2-0. Yeah. Thicken things up in the middle, hit them some counter-attacks with that high line and got his reward.
Yeah, and that's again, I don't think the flow would have been much different. Or my point was, it wasn't a bad one for Odegaard not to be playing because even if he'd been playing, Rob, I think they still would have been forced back. Yeah. He wouldn't have been on the ball so much. He would have been chasing a little bit, which he's totally capable of doing. And by the way, maybe he picks out a better pass on a counter-attack to create a score. So, maybe you're always going to miss that quality. But in terms of the flow of the game... Yeah, you felt that would have been similar. I think it would have been similar, given the way that Spurs are so tilted in everything they... At home, the energy from the crowd, the way they play, the fullbacks, everything else, to dominate possession. Now, they have their own issues, Rob, in terms of what, if you counted final third entries, we all did our coaching badges, and you're trying to initially get final third entries. Yeah. Take the ball into the final third to attack, and then there's the next phase. What Spurs are having problems with now, Rob, is that next phase. Yeah. They were in the final third many times against Arsenal, and Arsenal was strong as a rock with the 2 banks of 4, and that's where Spurs have got to find a way to create more and to work the goalkeeper more, given the territory, the possession that they enjoy with the way that they build up. It's just the last piece is missing, and that's what the manager Postecoglou's got to work on.
Yeah, it's an important point because I was looking at, as you say, with the numbers before. Apparently, they've had 48 shots up before this weekend's games. That's as many as Liverpool and as many as Manchester City. So they were getting to a certain point, apparently, like not creating quite as much, not getting big chances, not putting them away, which you say, but the possession, part of the possession, Rob, and again, you've maybe answered it before, but I almost felt that Mikel was set up to almost let them have possession, let them feel reasonably kind, like, it's okay that you've got more ball than us. It wasn't a worry to Arsenal. I don't think they tried to steal the ball back and get it more. I kind of thought they allowed Spurs the possession that they had, knowing what they were trying to do.
Yeah, I think given the strength of their defensive team is, Rob, and last year we knew they were the best defensive side. The back four, I got to say, you're in timber, Rob. I think makes them better. Yeah. I think he's stronger defensively certainly than Zinchenko. And he's really good going forward. He made some really nice little... He tends to stay a little wider, I think, for the most part as a fullback. But he slotted the ball down the outside for Martinelli a few times. He is for me, he makes their 11 better by playing at left back.
Were you surprised at all with the players that started? Jorginho came in, was probably expected. Trossard playing in the hole, Martinelli on that left side. There's a lot of talk about Sterling, Rob. Many were suggesting that he might have started. I was with you. I didn't think he would start. In fact, he would come onto the game. Thought Martinelli's pace against Porro was always going to be a threat, although his final product wasn't great today, Martinelli. But I thought his pace and his ability just to run beyond Porro was something that stretched Spurs a little bit.
Yeah. I think Arteta got it absolutely right, Rob. He also managed to get some minutes for Jesus. He managed to get some time for Raheem Sterling that, we heard on the broadcast has been looking great in training. And why wouldn't he be? He's working with the manager in Arteta that he's worked with before, and chomping at the bit for a new challenge. So that's good for Arsenal. It's going to be a very interesting and a good bit of business to bring into the football club, Rob. But on Arsenal's point of view, just well done. And we've seen this before, Rob. This isn't something different. We've seen this side of Arsenal now that we've said things like, that's it. A couple of years ago, they remember they used to get rolled over a little bit, Rob. Remember Liverpool and a couple of others that rolled them over a little bit. That's different now. They're so physical. They're so strong. They're so determined. They've learned so many lessons. And even though, again, they got forced back into playing a game that, and Arteta said it afterwards, that he'd rather have more of the ball, Rob.
Yeah, of course he would.
But in some ways, the structure that the Spurs play with, you have to play in that way. And they did it. And they came out on top. And they got their set-piece goal again, like they're so good at doing.
I just want to go back to that, the set-piece goal a little bit, because we've talked about Nicolas Jovet, the set-piece coach. You almost get the sense when Arsenal have a corner, Rob, it almost feels like, in a strange way, like a penalty. Like they feel that they've got a chance of scoring or hitting. And we've watched plenty of videos, saw plenty of replays, different angles of the goal. How they work to set the three-man block up across it's almost like they put a wall across the line of the goalkeeper. So the goalkeeper can't come. Now, the ball's going to come in the 6-yard box. And because of that, if they get one of them free, whether it's Gabriel, whether it's Saliba, whether it's Rice when he's playing or White, somebody usually gets a free-ish header around the 6-yard box. This time it's Gabriel. This time it finds the back of the net. But that work done on the training ground, that belief now, Rob, in the set pieces is another dimension for Arsenal to rely on. And a day when their football wasn't as great and their possession wasn't as high as they wanted, every time they got a corner kick, it was like there was a spring in their step.
Well, they listen, I can nowhere near compare my experience in some ways, Rob, but we had a little period of time when we were doing really well at Middlesbrough from set pieces and corners. And it's incredible when the ball goes wide and you like a corner, the centre-backs are buzzing to get up there. I'm excited to be on the edge of the box. I'm ready for, I know what we've got planned at set pieces. So it really does give you a boost. I mean, the only thing I would say, Rob, on that, and I think there was a difference of opinion, which I found really interesting, actually, because Lee Dixon in commentary, Rob, kind of blamed Vicario a lot. It was quite strong that he could have done more
the keeper should
to
do
get
more,
to the ball. Really strong on it. And then, of course, Tim at the end of the game, or at half-time,
he broke it down.
At the end of the game, he sort of said, well, I don't think he could have got through there. Do you know what? I'm a little in between, Rob, because I get it. And we've seen before, Rob, when the goalkeepers are really, really pinned in. I don't know whether he could have pulled away and could have found a way to get to the pitch of the ball when it came in. As Lee said. But of course, we all know what Tim means to goalkeeping, and I I enjoyed the difference of opinion.
Yeah.
That's one part of it that I think is an interesting part of that goal. And also, by the way, there's not much of this. There's a kind of a little bit of a push in the back. Wasn't there a push in the back on Romero from the goal scorer?
Yeah.
Now, I'm willing to. I
don't see that as a clear and obvious error. I see that as contact. It's not a contact sport that goes in the box. I'll go back to your point, though, that's well made about the goalkeeper. And for any of our listeners, Tim Howard's doing a breakdown, a tactical breakdown on the goal and talking from the keeper's perspective, which would be really interesting. And just sitting and listening to Tim straight away, he was quite adamant that he understood Lee's point, but said, as the ball's being kicked, as a goalkeeper, the first thing you do is start to try and assess the line of where the ball's going. He said that split second stops you breaking through those numbers. And he says, then if I'm going to go, I'm probably going to be a bit too late, and he's going to get the header anyway. So you tend to then stay behind the number of players, although it's not an ideal position, and then you're hoping somebody challenges or you get something on the ball. So it was really interesting to hear from Tim, because he said the fly to the ball is the most important thing that I've got to gauge. And he says, I've got to take a moment to do that. And that split second is probably the moment when, if he's going to go, he should be on his way.
No, it's great, mate. It's great. And it'll be interesting to look at that on our YouTube channel, Rob, with that kind of breakdown and more detail into that, because, I mean, he's been there and done it. He realises the pace of the ball that's coming in and the chances of getting out to meet it. I think from us, Rob, we sometimes look at a goal and think, well, he said he should stop that. He's 3 yards away from you, and that ball's travelled so far. You sort of do naturally think that you can get there and make a challenge. But anyway, take nothing away from the goal, and you're probably right. I mean, Romero, he's not strong enough there. And by the way, Rob, that's the second mistake he's made. Big mistake. He made a big mistake against Newcastle for the goal, where he just stood still and didn't track a runner for that winning goal for Newcastle United. I mean, a player that we really enjoy in Christian Romero, and it's aggressive in his tackling, but that's kind of soft on that goal, to be a little bit of contact there, as you said, and to be kind of out of the play almost. So
can I just take you back to the goal scorer? Because I can't give this moment up without really going to my underappreciated performer of the week. Right. Gabriel, my friend. Gabriel, who's always the Robin to Saliba's Batman. Gabriel, who's always a guy who we say, well, he's a Ricking Gabriel if you put pressure on him. Gabriel, who at times, he's a bit ragged. His emotions getting much of him. I tell you what, Robbie was colossus today. I thought he defended brilliantly. He gets the winning goal. He's got a spirit about him. I don't think he gets the credit he deserves in the partnership. It's the best centre-back partnership in the league. He looks like he's got an influence around the dressing room that the players like, that they appreciate him and what he is. And he's a little bit different. He's not maybe as silky, Rob. He's not as pleasing on the eye, but he's a really important part of that defence. And I couldn't give the moment up without saying my underappreciated performer of the week, Gabriel.
Yeah, it's a great shout. And I thought the same thing watching the performance today. I've already gone for somebody different. But what you got to love about him, Rob, is his enjoyment of defending, and he gets the goal today, which is obviously big bonus. But the way he loves defending, and you're right, there has been times where he's maybe made a mistake or two, but there aren't many of them, is there? There's not many mistakes that he makes, and that's a great shout. I want to talk a little more about more Spurs, Rob, because of a couple of things. And I think, I don't know, I heard you talk afterwards from the back of Postecoglou's comments about, was asked about this the trophies thing. And basically he doubled down and said, like, I always win. Like, I always win in the second season. Did you think it was a arrogant or out of order or misplaced or silly or unadvised or?
I think my response to Rebecca, because we heard the interview and then I think the female reporter sort of said about winning again, and he was, I thought, a little bit off with the way he responded. Listen, he's a manager who's just lost the North London derby, so he's not going to be in the best of moods. What I did say, Rob, and how I explain it is, I think Postecoglou's doing his way of trying to change a culture at a football club. From a club that goes close to things to a club that wins. And he's got to push it over the line and drag some people with him. And in doing so, he's kind of changed his personality a bit from that engaging, funny guy we all thought we'd love to go have a beer with. It looks like, the eyes are down. a little bit bitter, a little bit kind of annoyed with things. And so the messages are coming across very different. And I don't want to say arrogant to this effect, because I don't think he's at all that way, but it almost came a little bit rude how he responded to the report. Who's doing her job, who's got to ask the question, who's probably got some producer in her ear saying, ask him about winning, ask him about the trophies. So she was doing her job, and I just thought, he's a better man than that, and it's not a good look for him, and it's not a good look for the football club. I still get what he's trying to do, and I like what he's trying to do,
so
but he's a better communicator than what he showed.
Yeah. No, so I think we can agree that it was a bit off with the girl. You can be a little bit more patient like that. But I don't mind he's putting himself, Rob, under pressure. He's made comments. He knows exactly what he's doing. That's put himself in the potential for getting ridiculed later on. Yeah. But he's okay with that. He's okay in his skin because he wants to drag this team forward.
Correct.
And I think Rebecca said in the show, like, is he just putting a ton of pressure on the players? Then great.
Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? Winning is pressure, yeah.
Winning is pressure.
Yeah.
You know, he said it. He wants them to win. And I think that's going to only motivate, and it will be more pressure on him. But so what? That's maybe what the club needs. And it goes back to what you're saying about trying to change your mentality. So I kind of liked it without the delivery style was a bit off.
Absolutely. I thought the message was strong.
I didn't mind what he's doing is sort of sacrificing himself a little bit, like, come on, I want to get this team forward. And by the way, Rob, I did... You know, I agree with him, actually. I thought the game was tight and there wasn't many moments.
No.
And they could have done, I've said at the start where they're falling down a little bit. They're falling down because of the final third piece. But a lot of it is still pretty good, Rob. A lot of it's still pretty good. Yes, they look a little, you know, Arsenal are a really good side.
And Arsenal have got a better group of players, mate. That was when I looked at it. They've got a better group of players.
They have, and they of course when they counter-attack, they look more like scoring than Spurs did. But all I'm saying, Rob, is that I'm not going to be one jumping on his back, and the style's got to change. This has got to change. That's got to change. Why is he saying this? Why is he saying that? I think he's made very good and many changes to that squad. That the average age is down. A lot of players that weren't his fit. He's got rid of so many, Rob, over this last couple of windows. And I think it's obviously going to take a little bit of time, but I kind of like what he's trying to do. And if that final third, they figure that out, or whether it's Solanke that finds some form or whatever it is, maybe a bit more from Maddison, Rob, disappoint me a little bit. Yeah, I still kind of, you know, accept and believe in what he's doing, and that it does take time. Arsenal, Klopp's Liverpool, Pep's Man City, they all take time to build and to get better, to win things. So I thought it was a good game, and I thought Arsenal deserved it. But Spurs, you know, they're still on the right path, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Arsenal get the points. Important win for Arteta and his team ahead of having drawn last time out against Brighton and facing Manchester City in a week's time. They could ill afford not to get the 3 points.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And if you want even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.